My name's Donna Watson Butterfield, and I came here with my parents in 1950. My generation of girls had horses, and when we wanted to go somewhere, that's how we went. We went on our horses. Cass had a horse, my friend Judy had a horse, Sandra had a horse, and my dad taught me. He used to be the manager of the Clearbrook Riding Academy in Seattle, and years ago he came and was a partner in the Lazy T Dude Ranch, which did not last very long because partnerships just don't. But my dad bought the Flying Arrow property, and he built the cabins, he built the house, he built the whole thing. We had the old crank phones that you had to ring the bell, and then everybody listened in. It was wonderful. It was minimal. And all the old farmer ranchers gave him their farm horses that they had retired. And they kept hauling their horses in from their ranches for him to rent out for the summer. So he accumulated a lot of horses to begin with that he didn't have to purchase or feed in the winter. My dad drop camped people up there. All it amounts to is riding a horse up the trail, sleeping in a tent. And especially if you were a horseman to start with, if you get to make a living managing horse activity, that's better than a riding academy, I wouldn't think. They rode horses up there, he packed their stuff, and he left them there. They had to set up their own camps, and I can think that maybe my dad helped once in a while. And then when it was, their time was up, then he would go get them and bring them back. The scenery is always good, and I think that people enjoy knowing that they could control a horse all the way up the mountain and all the way back down. I think you have kind of a power sense there. That's a big animal, and you survived it. I never hiked a step in my life. Why would you hike when they made horses? I was a licensed guide at the age of 14. My mom and I both got licensed. I think I was force-fed. It was back in the day when you just helped your family, and then they give you, if you wanted to do something, they just give you a little bit of money to go do it, which we didn't know any different. It was a great life as a teenager. It was just fun. You got to ride your horse all day. We would teach them how to manage the reins, and we'd adjust the stirrups to fit so that they wouldn't hurt. And if your stirrups aren't right, then your body absorbs the pressure differently. And I mean, we probably had a few that could use at least somebody that knew how to maneuver a little bit, but we had Captain Kidd. Captain Kidd was a horse with these big feet, and we put every kid in the world on him, and he just lower his head and plug out the gate. But when us kids in high school decided that we wanted to have some fun, we all tried to ride him out the gate, and he wouldn't go. And there was nothing we could do to make him go out the gate. We've had people write stories about Captain Kidd. You know, he's got a horse with a personality. What we really loved was some old farmer would walk in his regular boots and his coveralls, bib overalls, and my dad would always say, well, have you done much riding? That was always a question we would ask, because we didn't want to insult people that were good riders. And this guy, he'd say, oh, I haven't ridden much, you know. And Dad said you could tell by the way he climbed on the horse he'd ridden all his life. And then you get the one that comes in and says, oh yeah, I can ride anything. Give me your best horse. And sure enough, they couldn't even get him out the gate. I remember if we went early, it was, no matter how hot a summer it was like bone-chilling cold. And you wanted to be sure and have a coat. And then as the day warmed up, then you wanted to tie your coat on the saddle so that you don't hold it. And we had to stop every couple miles and let everybody get off and limber up a little bit, and not get too stiff, and then help them all back on and send them down the trail. I'm sorry my mother is not still living, because she told amazing stories. She talked about crossing one of the rivers up in the High Lakes, and my dad's up in front merrily going along, and the horse in front of her on the pack string floundered in the creek a little bit, and my mother's horse went down, and she laughs and she says all I could see was her ears, but she stayed on her feet. Well, there was a couple of guys that came in, and my mom was destined to be their guide. And they looked at my mom and they said, we're not going any place with a goddamn woman. And my dad looked at him and he said, I guess you won't be going then. Well, actually, my dad wanted us to pack up the riders and take them ahead. He did not want them over there, the other men, trying to help him, because they would mess up his plan. So we'd get them ready to go, and we would take them on it first. And then he would finish packing up and follow up. And he would take things and weigh them in his hand and place them to get those packs weighed evenly. It was amazing to me. I remember he hired a horseshoer to do the shoeing because he was getting older, and he came home and the horseshoer had a mule on his back with his 4 feet tied to the hitching rail trying to get shoes on. My dad just had a ripping fit. My dad's the only one that could get along with them, and so he sent the horseshoer down the road and untied the mule and gave him a couple pats, and he stood there while my dad put the shoes on. You know, you don't fight with them. They're smarter than you are, and they'll win. I remember once my mare had a colt, and my dad just let the colt loose to go follow along. But the colt got between, there was me on my horse, the lead horse, and that colt tucked in between and ripped the string clear apart. But you know, people are really good to help. And everybody, they just dropped everything, and the world came to a stop right then, and everybody pitched in and put things all back together, and I was by myself. See, I was ready. I was headed home. And they looked up and go, uh-oh, disaster. They just help. I think that's pretty normal when you're out and about like that. It was a super growing up experience. And my mother said, you be really nice to those people because they feed you all winter. So you learn, and you learn to be nice to people. Well, I took these two middle-aged school teachers up as far as the little dam on the way to Aneroid. It was just a 2-hour ride. And on the way back, us kids, we always, when we got to the switchbacks, we just went straight down the mountain. So I'm like, this will be cool. I'll take them down that. Well, they were terrified. And my mother, I never did it again, if you want to know. We went to Horseshoe Lake a lot. We went to Moccasin Lake. We went to Ice Lake. And that trail changed from going straight up the mountain to switchbacks. I remember once I was riding my dad's big, beautiful young horse, taking my aunt and uncle up to Ice Lake, and we were at the bottom of the switchbacks. Believe me, there was nobody worse in the mountains than the Boy Scouts, the little Boy Scouts. And they were coming down, and they were at the top of the switchbacks. And my horse was a little bit spooky and green. And one of those little boys dropped his sleeping bag, and here it came rolling down the switchbacks. And I thought, I could feel my horse just it's like he grew, and and I figured I was going down the mountain, and I'm not getting off. And that sleeping bag caught on the last switchback. It caught on a twig, and it unrolled, and it came to a stop just before it got to us. And that horse looked at it, and he just snorted. And I dodged a bullet on that one. I was lucky. I don't know where I would have ended up. But my dad didn't ever put me on something that was dangerous. I don't know. Like I said, it was a great life for a teenager. I think I just took everything for granted. I still do. Just every day is good. My sister-in-law brought her grandchildren up here off the farm and rented a horse for them for the day. They all got horses and got to take an hour ride. And they just thought it was the coolest thing. I think it's a shame that you have to pay for your horse ride. Just like, I never had to do that, but I just think it's a great experience for kids or anybody. And if they liked it, they rebooked and they would come again. I mean, those two school teachers are probably still talking about coming down the mountain. I think that it's good to do things, and I tell my grandchildren how lucky they are to grow up here. They gain so much independence and freedom, and they can go where they want to go, and they can do what they want to do, and they're smart about it because they learn what hurts when they are naughty. And I think that's good for city kids. When they come here, they love it. I think they want to go into the high Wallowas, and I think they want to ride a horse.